This is called Housebound Day 45, a short, pretentious, still evolving lyric essay. A vinaigrette sits in my kitchen cabinet like a science project. Blueberry balsamic with bright apple cider swirled into a Portuguese Cobran Cosa olive oil, which costs more than the dress I am wearing. The ratio of vinegar to fat far exceeds the usual 1:3 recommended by sissies. Stir in soy sauce and sriracha, balanced against a few tablespoons of local honey. Fierce, hot, sweet, fire. My escape is here, inside my palate. Fat and acid, acid and fat. In the warm Texas humidity, they float, they mingle, like teenagers in the basement playing spin the bottle. The fat clings, it coats your tongue, leaving a peppery residue in the back near the uvula. Acid sluices and clears, and it's then you taste the basil and the thyme. Shake it up. Shake it up hard, for there is no time and there are no days. The sun has started to give way to the moon. The jar which houses my vinaigrette is my totem, my vaccine. I rarely wash it. I unscrew the lid and it drips onto my counter, black, viscous like sludge from a pipe. I pour big plops over purple cabbage and dark green kale, onto red onions and yellow tomatoes. Blended rivulets run down the sides of small cucumbers and carrots, making puddles amongst seeds of pomegranate and pumpkin. Clumps of feta turn pink while dried cranberries and almonds fall heavy amongst the leaves. This is my ritual, a sacrament of life in color and crunch. I sit on the porch as the orange and pinks fade. My feet hang over the edge and I drag my toes through the cool water of the past. I've spent enough time thumbing my nose at death. I know it is coming. I know today is the only certainty which exists. I know if enough heavy objects hit you in the head and you end up with asphalt embedded in your knees, the layer of scars form an artful checkerboard across your skin. Use this to create your armor. Then you can pick up the edges of these days, tugging at the coattails of the next and the next. Pull them with you into the future. I will not go down without a fight. Every mouthful is an arsenal. That's it.
I really loved that.
Thanks.
Yeah, that was great.
I want to eat that now.
That's what I eat every day. I really do feel like it's like this is
I just
my
had pomegranates I had pomegranates just an hour ago. So
love pomegranates.
They're fun.
I like Jesse's kitty.
Oh, thank you. This is my the first animal I've ever had, and I've only had her for 2 days.
Oh,
what?
Oh,
She's
that's
perfect.
wonderful. That's wonderful.
Yeah, and her name is Tibbs, after the Ethiopian beef dish.
All right, so I have a old song and a brand new song, and I'm gonna do the old one first. First, I'm gonna take off my bracelet. Okay, this is the song that now is a song of my band, Rembert and the Basic Goodness, but I'm gonna do it myself. It's called Glaciers and Tequila. Most of you know this one. The tequila's talking, saying I want more. The tequila's talking, saying I want more. You're cool, I go slow, slow as a glacier. Glaciers are beautiful and very, very noisy and responsible for your scenery. So I'm down for glaciers, Titanic be damned. That talking tequila, that damn margarita, open tongues and loosen minds and close the space between us. slowly moving, drifting, creaking, hiding history in their lairs. First retreat, then advance, dragging earth to make new ground. Glaciers are beautiful and very, very noisy, and responsible for Yosemite. So I'm down for glaciers, Titanic me down. Tequila's talking, it's whispering in my ear. Tequila is talking, it's whispering in my ear. Saying, to the bottom, speed the thought. Saying, to the bottom, won't you please to the bottom, speed the thought. All right, should I go right on into the second song? Okay, that's Tom's giving me a thumbs up on that. Well, this is very brand new, like I wrote it yesterday. It's been coming for a few days. It's called The Ballad of the Unmade Salad. I'm sure everyone's had an unmade salad in their life at one point. Haven't we all? It's the ballad of the unmade salad. It's the ballad of the unmade salad. The lettuce was rotten, forgotten. It sat in the bottom of the drawer. We didn't want it anymore. The tomatoes were shriveled and had black holes in their skin. The cucumbers were bitter even when we peeled them. But I'm sick of salad anyway. We have it almost every day. The dressing Caesar from a bottle is bland. So much better when I make it by hand. I have nothing to show for all the hours and all the days. It's just eat, and walk around and fade away into blissful hours of TV, and then drift into strange dreams. The avocado was late, and it had that certain smell. Made guacamole instead, that way we can't tell. I have so many high hopes for being good, doing everything I should. Yeah. But in times of trouble, I have the weakest will. It's like pushing a boulder uphill. I have nothing to show for all these hours and all these days. Let's just eat and lie around and fade away into blissful hours of TV and drift into strange dreams. Thank you. Thanks for inspiring me to write, Tom. Hasn't been easy.
Great, Remy.
Thanks, Lane.
That
I
just
loved
happened to me with some avocados 2 days ago.
Get
And then to guacamole, so I couldn't tell they were bad.
that wrinkly skin and you know you're in trouble.
Mm-hmm. I love that line, I'm down with glaciers.
Thanks, Rebecca.
I love it too.
Nah, I've seen you play that song a bunch of times. It's always great. It's nice to hear you just do it on the accordion.
Mhm.
Thanks. It's an oldie goldie.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
When did you write it?
I wrote that probably in like, I don't know, maybe 2009, something like that. It was taken from like text messages and emails.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember every time I see someone taking like, pictures, now I always hear in my head, but I got this shot.
Oh yeah. I'm bringing my musical, Selfie the Musical, to Austin now next spring, Molly. So
Oh, cool. Let me know.
This is the story. What's in Alaska? Carl got off work at 3. He left the station and drove to a shoe store near his apartment. He put his foot up on the stool and let the clerk unlace his work boot. Something comfortable, Carl said, for casual wear. I have something, the clerk said. The clerk brought out 3 pairs of shoes, and Carl said he would take the soft beige-colored shoes that made his feet feel free and springy. He paid the clerk and put the box with his boots under his arm. He looked down at his new shoes as he walked. Driving home, he felt that his foot moved freely from pedal to pedal. You bought some new shoes, Mary said. Let me see. Do you like them? Carl said. I don't like the color, but I'll bet they're comfortable. You needed new shoes. He looked at his shoes again. I've got to take a bath, he said. We'll have an early dinner, she said. Helen and Jack asked us over tonight. Helen got Jack a water pipe for his birthday, and they're anxious to try it out. Mary looked at him. Is it all right with you? What time? Around 7. It's all right, he said. She looked at his shoes again and sucked her cheeks. Take your bath, she said. Carl ran the water and took off his shoes and clothes. He lay in the tub for a while and then used a brush to get at the lube grease under his nails. He dropped his hands and then raised them to his eyes. She opened the bathroom door. I brought you a beer, she said. Steam drifted around her and out into the living room. I'll be out in a minute, he said. He drank some of the beer. She sat on the edge of the tub and put her hand on his thigh. Home from the wars, she said. Home from the wars, he said. She moved her hand through the wet hair on his thigh. Then she clapped her hands. Hey, I have something to tell you. I had an interview today, and I think they're going to offer me a job in Fairbanks, Alaska, he said. She nodded. What do you think of that? I've always wanted to go to Alaska. Does it look pretty definite? She nodded again. They liked me. They said I'd hear next week. That's great. Hand me a towel, will you? I'm getting out. I'll go and set the table, she said. His fingertips and toes were pale and wrinkled. He dried slowly and put on clean clothes and the new shoes. He combed his hair and went out to the kitchen. He drank another beer while she put dinner on the table. We're supposed to bring some cream soda and something to munch on, she said. We'll have to go by the store. Cream soda and munchies. Okay, he said. When they had eaten, he helped her clear the table. Then they drove to the market and bought cream soda and potato chips and corn chips and onion-flavored snack crackers. At the checkout counter, he added a handful of you-know bars to the order. Hey, yeah, she said when she saw them. They drove home again and parked, and then they walked the block to Helen and Jack's. Helen opened the door. Carl put the sack on the dining room table. Mary sat down in the rocking chair and sniffed. We're late, she said. They started without us, Carl. Helen laughed. We had one when Jack came in. We haven't lighted the water pipe yet. We were waiting until you got here. She stood in the middle of the room, looking at them and grinning. Let's see what's in the sack, she said. Oh, wow. Say, I think I have one of these corn chips. I'll have one of these corn chips right now. You guys want some? We just ate dinner, Carl said. We'll have some pretty soon. Water had stopped running, and Carl could hear Jack whistling in the bathroom. We have some popsicles and some M&Ms, Helen said. She stood beside the table and dug into the potato chip bag. If Jack ever gets out of the shower, he'll get the water pipe going. She opened the box of snack crackers and put one in her mouth. Say, these are really good, she said. I don't know what Emily Post would say about you, Mary said. Helen laughed. She shook her head. Jack came out of the bathroom. Hi, everybody. Hi, Carl. What's so funny, he said, grinning. I could hear you laughing. We were laughing at Helen, Mary said. Helen was just laughing, Carl said. She's funny, Jack said. Look at the goodies. Hey, you guys ready for a glass of cream soda? I'll get the pipe going. I'll have a glass, Mary said. What about you, Carl? I'll have some, Carl said. Carl's on a little bummer tonight, Mary said. Why do you say that? Carl asked. He looked at her. That's a good way to put me on one. I was just teasing, Mary said. She came over and sat beside him on the sofa. I was just teasing, honey. Hey, Carl, don't get on a bummer, Jack said. Let me show you what I got for my birthday. Helen, open one of those bottles of cream soda while I got the pipe going. I'm real dry. Helen carried the chips and crackers to the coffee table. Then she produced a bottle of cream soda and 4 glasses. Looks like we're going to have a party, Mary said. If I didn't starve myself all day, I'd put on 10 pounds a week, Helen said. I know what you mean, Mary said. Jack came out of the bedroom with a water pipe. What do you think of this? He said to Carl. He put the water pipe on the coffee table. That's really something, Carl said. He picked it up and looked at it. It's called a hookah, Helen said. That's what they called it where I bought it. It's just a little one, but it does the job, she laughed. Where did you get it? Mary said. What? That little place on 4th Street, you know, Helen said. Sure, I know, Mary said. I'll have to go in there someday, Mary said. She folded her hands and watched Jack. How does it work? Carl said. You put the stuff here, Jack said, and you light this, and then you inhale through this here, and the smoke is filtered through the water. It has a good taste to it, and it really hits you. I'd like to get Carl one for Christmas, Mary said. She looked at Carl and grinned and touched his arm. I'd like to have one, Carl said. He stretched his legs and looked at his shoes under the light. Here, try this, Jack said, letting out a thin stream of smoke and passing the tube to Carl. See if this isn't okay. Carl drew on the tube, held the smoke, and passed the tube to Helen. Mary first, Helen said. I'll go after Mary. You guys have to catch up. I won't argue, Mary said. She slipped the tube in her mouth and drew rapidly, twice, and Carl watched the bubbles she made. That's really okay, Mary said. She passed the tube to Helen. We broke it in last night, Helen said, and laughed loudly. She was still stoned when she got up with the kids this morning, Jack said, and he laughed. He watched Helen pull on the tube. How are the kids? Mary asked. They're fine, Jack said, and put the tube in his mouth. Carl sipped the cream soda and watched the bubbles in the pipe. They reminded him of bubbles rising from a diving helmet. He imagined a lagoon and schools of remarkable fish. Jack passed the tube. Carl stood up and stretched. Where are you going, honey? Mary asked. No place, Carl said. He sat down and shook his head and grinned. Jesus. Helen laughed. What's funny? Carl said after a long, long time. God, I don't know, Helen said. She wiped her eyes and laughed again, and Mary and Jack laughed. After a time, Jack unscrewed the top of the water pipe and blew through one of the tubes. It gets plugged sometimes. What do you mean when you said I was on a bummer? Carl said to Mary. What? Mary said. Carl stared at her and blinked. You said something about me being on a bummer. Carl said to Mary. What? Mary said. Carl stared. Oh, sorry. You said something about me being on a bummer. What made you say that? I don't remember now, but I can tell when you are, she said. Please don't bring up anything negative, okay? Okay, Carl said. All I'm saying is I don't know why you said that. If I wasn't on a bummer before you said it, it's enough when you say it to me to put me on one. If the shoe fits, Mary said. She leaned on the arm of the sofa and laughed until tears came. What was that? Jack said. He looked at Carl and then at Mary. I missed that one, Jack said. I should have made some dip for these chips, Helen said. Wasn't there another bottle of that cream soda? Jack said. We've bought 2 bottles, Carl said. Did we drink them both? Jack said. Did we drink any? Helen said, and laughed. No, I only opened one. I think I only opened one. I don't remember opening more than one, Helen said and laughed. Carl passed the tube to Mary. She took his hand and guided the tube into her mouth. He watched the smoke flow over her lips a long time later. What about some cream soda? Jack said. Mary and Helen laughed. What about it? Mary said. Well, I thought we were going to have us a glass, Jack said. He looked at Mary and grinned. Mary and Helen laughed. What's funny? Jack said. He looked at Helen and then at Mary. He shook his head. I don't know about you guys, he said. We might go to Alaska, Carl said. Alaska? Jack said. What's in Alaska? What would you do up there? I wish we could go someplace, Helen said. What's wrong with here? Jack said. What would you guys do in Alaska? I'm serious. I'd like to know. Carl put a potato chip in his mouth and sipped his cream soda. I don't know. What did you say? After a while, Jack said, What's in Alaska? I don't know, Carl said. Ask Mary. Mary knows. Mary, what am I going to do up there? Maybe I'll grow those giant cabbages you read about, or you read about, or pumpkins, Helen said. Grow pumpkins. You'd clean up, Jack said. Ship the pumpkins down here for Halloween. I'll be your distributor. Jack will be your distributor, Helen said. That's right, Jack said. We'll clean up. Get rich, Mary said. In a while, Jack stood up. I know what would taste good, and that's some cream soda, Jack said. Mary and Helen laughed. Go ahead and laugh, Jack said, grinning. Who wants some cream soda? Some what? Mary said. Some cream soda, Jack said. You stood up like you were going to make a speech, Mary said. I hadn't thought of that, Jack said. He shook his head and laughed. He sat down. That's good stuff, he said. We should have got more, Helen said. More what? Mary said. More money, Jack said. No money, Carl said. Did I see some bars in that sack? Helen said. I bought some, Carl said. I spotted them last minute. Bars are good, Jack said. They're creamy, Mary said. They melt in your mouth. We have some M&Ms and popsicles if anybody wants any, Jack said. Mary said, I'll have a popsicle. Are you going to the kitchen? Yeah, and I'm going to get the cream soda too, Jack said. I just remembered, you guys want a glass? Just bring it all in and we'll decide, Helen said. The M&Ms too. Might be easier to move the kitchen out here, Jack said. When we lived in the city, Mary said, people said you could see who turned on the night before by looking at their kitchen in the morning. We had a tiny kitchen when we lived in the city, she said. We had a tiny kitchen too, Carl said. I'm going to see what I can find, Jack said. I'll come with you, Mary said. Carl watched them walk to the kitchen. He settled back against the cushion and watched them walk. Then he leaned forward very slowly. He squinted. He saw Jack reach up to a shelf in the cupboard. He saw Mary move against Jack from behind and put her arms around his waist. Are you guys serious? Helen said. Very serious, Carl said. About Alaska, Helen said. He stared at her. I thought you said something, Helen said. Jack and Mary came back. Jack carried a large bag of M&Ms and a bottle of cream soda. Mary sucked on an orange popsicle. Anybody want a sandwich? Helen said. We have sandwich stuff. It isn't funny, Mary said. You start with the desserts first, and then you move on to the main course. It's funny, Carl said. Are you being sarcastic, honey? Mary said. Who wants cream soda? Jack said. A round of cream soda coming up. Carl held his glass out, and Jack poured it full. Carl set the glass on the coffee table, but the coffee table smacked it off, and the soda poured onto his shoe. God damn it, Carl said. How do you like that? I spilled it on my shoe. Helen, do we have a towel? Get Carl a towel, Jack said. Those were new shoes, Mary said. He just got them. They look comfortable, Helen said a long time later and handed Carl a towel. That's what I told him, Mary said. Carl took the shoe off and rubbed the leather with the towel. It's done for, he said. That cream soda will never come out. Mary and Jack and Helen laughed. That reminds me, I read something on the paper, Helen said. She pushed on the tip of her nose with a finger and narrowed her eyes. I can't remember what it was now, she said. Carl worked the shoe back on. He put both feet under the lamp and looked at the shoes together. What did you read? Jack said. What? Helen said. You said you read something in the paper, Jack said. Helen laughed. I was just thinking about Alaska, and I remembered them finding a prehistoric man in a block of ice. Something reminded me. That wasn't in Alaska, Jack said. Maybe it wasn't, but it reminded me of it, Helen said. What about Alaska, you guys? Jack said. There's nothing in Alaska, Carl said. He's on a bummer, Mary said. What do you guys do in Alaska? Jack said. There's nothing to do in Alaska, Carl said. He put his feet under the coffee table, then he moved them out under the light once more. Who wants a pair of new shoes? Carl said. What's the noise? Helen said. Well, what's that noise? Helen said. They listened. Something scratched at the door. Sounds like Cindy, Jack said. I'd better let her in. While you're up, get me a popsicle, Helen said. She put her head back and laughed. I'll have another one too, honey. Mary said. What did I say? I mean, Jack. Mary said, excuse me, I thought I was talking to Carl. Popsicles all around. Jack said, you want a popsicle, Carl? What? You want an orange popsicle? An orange one, Carl said. 4 popsicles coming up, Jack said. In a while, he came back with the popsicles and handed them around. He sat down, and they heard the scratching again. I knew I was forgetting about something, Jack said. He got up and opened the front door. Good Christ, he said, if this isn't something. I guess Cindy went out for dinner tonight. Hey, you guys, look at this. The cat carried a mouse into the living room, stopped to look at them, then carried the mouse down the hall. Did you see what I just saw? Mary said. Talk about a bummer. Jack turned the hall light on. The cat carried the mouse out of the hall and into the bathroom. She's eating this mouse, Jack said. I don't think I want her eating a mouse in my bathroom, Helen said. Make her get out of there. Some of the children's things are in there. She's not going to get out of here, Jack said. What about the mouse? Mary said. What the hell? Jack said. Cindy's got to learn to hunt if we're going to Alaska. Alaska? Helen said. What's all this about Alaska? Don't ask me, Jack said. He stood near the bathroom door and watched the cat. Mary and Carl said they're going to Alaska. Cindy's got to learn to hunt. Mary put her chin in her hands and stared into the hall. She's eating the mouse, Jack said. Helen finished the last of the corn chips. I told him I didn't want Cindy eating a mouse in the bathroom, Jack. Helen said. What? Make her get out of the bathroom, I said. Helen said. For Christ's sake, Jack said. Look, Mary said. Ugh, Mary said. The goddamn cat is coming in here, Mary said. What's she doing? Carl said. The cat dragged the mouse under the coffee table. She lay down under the table and licked the mouse. She held the mouse in her paws and licked it slowly from head to tail. The cat's high, Jack said. It gives you the shivers, Mary said. It's just nature, Jack said. Look at her eyes, Mary said. Look at the way she looks at us. She's high, all right. Jack came over to the sofa and sat beside Mary. Mary inched toward Carl to give Jack room. She rested her hand on Carl's knee. They watched the cat eat the mouse. Don't you ever feed that cat? Mary said to Helen. Helen laughed. You guys ready for another smoke? Jack said. We have to go, Carl said. What's your hurry? Jack said. Stay a little longer, Helen said. You don't have to go yet. Carl stared at Mary, who was staring at Jack. Jack stared at something on the rug near his feet. Helen picked through the M&Ms in her hand. I like the green ones best, Helen said. I have to work in the morning, Carl said. What a bummer he's on, Mary said. You want to hear a bummer, folks? There's a bummer. Are you coming? Carl said. Anybody want a glass of milk? Jack said. We've got some milk out there. I'm too full of cream soda, Mary said. There's no more cream soda, Jack said. Helen laughed. She closed her eyes and then opened them and then laughed again. We have to go home, Carl said. In a while, he stood up and said, Did we have coats? I don't think we had coats. What? I don't think we had coats, Mary said. She stayed seated. We'd better go, Carl said. They have to go, Helen said. Carl put his hands under Mary's shoulders and pulled her up. Goodbye, you guys, Mary said. She embraced Carl. I'm so full I can hardly move, Mary said. Helen laughed. Helen's always finding something to laugh at, Jack said, and Jack grinned. What are you laughing at, Helen? I don't know, something Mary said. Helen said. What did I say? Mary said. I can't remember, Helen said. We have to go, Carl said. So long. Jack said, take it easy. Mary tried to laugh. Let's go, Carl said. Night, everybody, Jack said. Night, Carl. Carl heard Jack say very, very slowly. Outside, Mary held Carl's arm and walked with her head down. They moved slowly on the sidewalk. He listened to the scuffling sounds her shoes made. He heard the sharp and separate sound of a dog barking, and above that a murmuring of very distant traffic. She raised her head. When we get home, Carl, I want to be fucked, talked to, diverted. Divert me, Carl. I need to be diverted tonight. She tightened her hold on his arm. He could feel the dampness in that shoe. He unlocked the door and flipped the light. Come to bed, she said. I'm coming, he said. He went to the kitchen and drank 2 glasses of water. He turned off the living room light and felt his way along the wall into the bedroom. Carl, she yelled, Carl! Jesus Christ, it's me, he said. I'm trying to get the light on. He found the lamp and she sat up in bed. Her eyes were bright. He pulled the stem on the alarm and began taking off his clothes. His knees trembled. Is there anything else to smoke? She said. We don't have anything, he said. Then fix me a drink. We have something to drink. Don't tell me we don't have something to drink, she said. Just some beer. They stared at each other. I'll have a beer, she said. You really want a beer? She nodded slowly and chewed her lip. He came back with the beer. She was sitting with his pillow on her lap. He gave her the can of beer and then crawled into bed and pulled the covers up. I forgot to take my pill, she said. What? I forgot my pill. He got out of bed and brought her the pill. She opened her eyes and she dropped the pill onto her outstretched tongue. She swallowed some beer with the pill and he got back in bed. Take this. I can't keep my eyes open, she said. He set the can on the floor and then stayed on his side and stared into the dark hallway. She put her arm over his ribs and her fingers crept across his chest. What's in Alaska, she said. He turned on his stomach and eased all the way to his side of the bed. In a moment, she was snoring. Just as he started to turn off the lamp, he thought he saw something in the hall. He kept staring and thought he saw it again, a pair of small eyes. His heart turned. He blinked and he kept staring. He leaned over to look for something to throw. He picked up one of his shoes. He sat up straight and held the shoe with both hands. He heard her snoring and set his teeth. He waited. He waited for it to move once more to make the slightest noise. And that is it.
Wow.
So many questions.
Wow.
I just remember
Excellent.
in I was living in Boston, I think, when I got it, and just the sparseness of, I had never read a writer who wrote that simply,
Yeah.
ever. I mean, even the dialogue is so absolutely focused, and I don't know, it was very interesting, and it just sort of stayed in my head because I'd never read a short story quite like that, before or after.
Yeah.
How old do you think those characters are?
I'm guessing 30s or 40s.
Yeah, 35.
I was thinking 30s.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah. All right.
like old enough to have been beaten down a little bit.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah.
But it was
I
very.
realized at first I was picturing them kind of like older, and then I realized like, no, they're probably like
Yeah.
younger than I'm.
You could feel the connections between them, the ease of communication and understanding between them was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I always think that other generations were so much more worldly and
Me too.
they were in their 30s or whatever. They lived entire lifetimes.
Yes.
Yeah, it's funny because I just assumed that his prose was the strongest thing that he did, and then I got a collection of his poetry, which is like ridiculously great.
Oh, wow.
I didn't know Carver's poetry, and he was a powerful, powerful writer.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I think alcoholism killed him.
No, I don't think so. I think he was.
No?
I think it was more. I think he
Was
was.
it something else?
It was cancer. Yeah, I
It was
mean, it was.
cancer.
I don't. Yeah, I don't think it was related. He was.
Okay.
He was not. As far as I know. So
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
give it up those vices.
I stand corrected. So we have Lane and Rebecca. Which guys?
I'll
Would
get
you-
I'll do it out. Okay.
Take it, Rebecca. Take it.
Okay, let me mute everybody and then unmute Rebecca. And yeah, there we go. Unmute. Perfect.
Let me know how this sounds. My sound guy is over there, and he can make any adjustments that you need. So I have two songs. I got this is an old original, like 12 or so years old, called Chicken Shop, and it's about. I used to have lunch with my friend Alex Morrison. We both worked in Midtown, and we would go to the ranch every couple of weeks. We would go together to the Ranch One chicken restaurant. I don't know if anyone remembers Ranch One, but there was this chain of chicken restaurants, and they served these delicious sandwiches. The sandwiches had like a grilled chicken breast with salad and almonds on them, and a barbecue sauce, and they were so good. And we would have these like lengthy conversations about our lives, and I kind of wrote this song about that. So how's that sound? Sound okay? Okay. There's a beautiful girl all alone in the chicken shop. I don't feel so. Oops, sorry, I'm gonna start that one again. There's a beautiful girl all alone in the chicken shop. I don't feel so bad now. She's got my bag, she's got my book, but the boys take a second look. Well, I wonder if she has the trouble that I do. There are things that she is wistful about. She's got no right, no won't happen overnight. What will I do with all this love? Well, I'm just a good bird. I'm walking around and I come up empty. I'm thinking about you, it makes me happy. I don't want to wait, no, I don't want to waste another minute in it. There's a beautiful boy all alone in the chicken shop, and he hears that song again. I'm fascinated by your love. If you want him, it won't take much. Well, the irony is background color. She said she fell in love with him. As for me, I forgot to wonder when. What will I do with all this love? Well, it just got good for it. I'm walking around and I come up empty. Thinking about you, it makes me happy. And I don't want to waste another minute in it. There's a beautiful boy all alone in the chicken shop.
Yeah.
And
That's great. That's great, Rebecca. That's really.
it's really old. It's about singlehood. I cannot relate to it now at all.
I love in the very ending that when like that, like you, it was like a sort of a you thought it was going to go back in the verse, but then you ended. It was just ended up on a really bright note. It was really good. I love that.
Thank you. Keeping you on.
Are you a Judy Sill fan?
Yes, I love Judy Sill. I really love Judy Sill.
Yeah, no, I hear like you know, I hear a little bit of that component in your what you do in the very best way, you know.
Thank you. Somebody just wrote a review of my record and they said that it sounded like a more upbeat Judy Sill.
Yeah.
I don't know, I kind of felt bad.
Not a bad comparison. Believe me.
That's not a bad comparison. I felt bad for Judy Sill that somebody would say an upbeat Judy Sill, but anyway. So yeah, we just got this keyboard, which is very exciting, and I'm trying to learn the Kiss on it.
Oh, that's the God! Is that the most beautiful song?
Yeah, it's the most beautiful song in the world. I can't. I mean, I don't know. It's just so sad and beautiful. Anyway, so this next song is my parents had this record. It was like a box set, and it was like a 50th anniversary vinyl album set for Warner Brothers, and it had some of the albums had like dialogue on them, and some had songs. And this one was it's a Peggy Lee song from the movie Pete Kelly's Blues, and I memorized a lot of the songs on this record, and I would sing them to myself while I would swim in the pool at my grandmother's apartment. So like, I remember singing this song and like doing the backstroke to it. So I'm gonna try to perform it without swimming. It's a really short song. It's called Sugar. Sugar, I call my baby my sugar. I never made him my sugar. That's why my baby is so confectionery funny. I never plead for his money, 'cause when I feed him on honey, I get my needs every time. I make a million trips to his lips if I were to be, because he's sweeter than any candy to me. He's granulated sugar. I never cheat on my sugar, 'cause I'm too sweet on my sugar. That sugar baby of mine. Sugar, sugar, that sugar baby of mine.
Yay!
Okay, this is a song called Two Bananas and They're Both Brown. It's like one of those songs that just like fell out of one of those songs that just falls out of the sky, and you got to just run home and write it. It's one of those songs. on my mind. All the Wheaties and a nice banana, well, that would suit me fine. Now try to guess how bad I feel. I can't have a tasty meal, 'cause all I have around are 2 bananas and they're both brown. 2 bananas and they're both brown. 2 bananas and they're both brown. If they're too ripe, it brings me down. I got 2 bananas and they're both brown. Now I am in quite a quandary. I have to decide. Eat my Wheaties without banana or take a run outside. I could make it in minutes flat, get bananas and come right back, but the rain is pouring down. I got 2 bananas and they're both brown. 2 bananas and they're both brown. 2 bananas and they're both brown. I hear thunder, oh what a sound. I got 2 bananas and they're both brown. I had made out a shopping list with bananas at the top. And when my wife came back, she said, I'm sorry, baby, I forgot. Well, she remembered the toasted oats, the cooked rice, and the curried goat. But then she left me down. I got 2 bananas and they're both brown. 2 bananas and they're both brown. 2 bananas and they're both brown. Only 40 cents a pound. I got 2 bananas and they're both brown. Maybe they are not so bad, at least I have to try. But when I tried to peel one open, I thought that I would die. The banana, it had turned to porridge, and I could muster the required courage. I put the knife back down. I got 2 bananas and they're both brown. 2 bananas and they're both brown. 2 bananas and they're both brown. Even a monkey would put them down. I got 2 bananas and they're both brown. I decided that was that I would brave the storm. I put on my hat and boots so I'd be safe and warm. But I forgot my blue umbrella, and I'm not usually a forgetful fella. I felt just like a clown. I got 2 bananas and they're both brown. 2 bananas and they're both brown. 2 bananas and they're both brown. Stepped in a puddle and fell right down. I got 2 bananas and they're both brown. I asked the man behind the counter where he kept the fruit. He pointed over by the corner by the parsley roots. The worst thing I had ever seen, the bananas he had were far too green. I stroked and stamped the ground. I got 2 bananas and they're both brown. 2 bananas and they're both brown. 2 bananas and they're both brown. There must be some left in this town. I got 2 bananas and they're both brown. When I came home, I looked as if I'd fallen from a boat. Then I noticed by the kitchen a small bag with a note. I'm sorry, dear, I had to go, but I bought the bananas that you love so. And I'm a rich man now. I got nice bananas and they're not brown.
Hey.
Thank you, thank you.
Love it.
It's like William Carlos Williams meets the Mighty Sparrow.
Ah,